with NFTs, it started for artists because if artists sell their paintings or sell their art, they sell it once. Now, I'm sure that there's, people that would, after they get famous and they sell more and more artwork and become more well-known, they'd just be like, man, that artwork that I sold for $100 when I first got starting out is being listed right now, for at Sotheby's or whatever for $100,000. And I don't get a single dime of that. Where now, if with NFTs, if they sell it, again, the business, the brand, the artist, whatever, continues to see more success and see their own stock rise, they're still getting a piece of the pie.
Welcome to Life After Corporate, your ultimate guide for making the leap from corporate leader to entrepreneur. I'm Deb Boulanger, entrepreneur, executive leader, and founder of the Launch Lab for Women Entrepreneurs. This is your time to break through the glass ceiling once and for all and get your ticket to the C-suite. Come back each week to get the leading strategies, advice, and tools that will give you the skills and confidence you need to replace your corporate paycheck. Are you ready? Let's go. Welcome back to another episode of Life After Corporate, my friend. And if you're new to our show, welcome home. This is where we talk about all things entrepreneurial, especially the journey from corporate leader to successful entrepreneur. And today we have the privilege of talking with Katie Brinkley. And Katie has an amazing Life After Corporate story. And she's also a pioneer, not only in using social media in the most advanced ways possible, but a pioneer in Web3 and NFTs. So if you don't know what Web3 is and you don't know what an NFT is or how you would use one in your business, stay tuned. This is going to be exciting.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah. So Katie, rather than me going through your intro, why don't you tell us a little bit about your background and your Life After Corporate story?
Yeah, and it's funny, Deb, because before we, hit record here, we were kind of talking a little bit about why am I here? Why what do I have? What's my story with all this? And I've been doing social media since the days of MySpace, and I was actually talking to a friend who I'd met online, and we got to see each other in real life, and we were walking down the street. And I said something along the lines of, man, I haven't been on the scene like this. And it was downtown Austin. And I was like, I haven't been on the scene like this in at least 20 years. And he was like, wait a second, how old are you? And I said to him, I was like, well, I feel like since I say on a regular basis, I started in social media back in the days of MySpace. I'm pretty much dating myself there. I've been doing this for 18 years. And he was like, I just thought that meant that you had a MySpace page when you were in high school or something. I was like, well, thank you. But nope, I was doing this for in the world, outside of college, past my college days. But I wasn't getting paid. So when I first started with social media, I was working at the radio station. Being a social media anything didn't exist. This was back when Facebook, you still had to have a .edu email address. And I was like, well, I guess MySpace will be my playing ground then if I want to see what this whole social media thing even is. And that's where I dove in and I started learning about the connections that can be made online when you're doing it the right way, when you're forging connections and relationships and not just trying to sell or try to, in this day and age, produce content. And I started with bands I was really into the punk music scene back then. So I connected with bands like Yellow Card and Thrice. And I was building these relationships with them on, hey, I like what I'm hearing on your MySpace pages. I work at the radio station. Would you be willing to come on air with me? Would you be willing to have a conversation? And things really just blew up from there. I was a sports reporter for the local radio station here in Denver. I was the post-game reporter for the Broncos and the Rockies. And then I moved into the world of corporate. I was a marketing manager for the Colorado Rockies television station. And then I got laid off. I was always never really planning on leaving the corporate world. I wanted to have steady job, something that enjoyed doing every day. And my company was acquired by a bigger one. And of course, they didn't know me or what I was doing for the station, but they knew that my title of marketing manager, they had a whole bunch of those already. So I was expendable. But it really opened up a world of opportunity for me because I had an amazing boss. And I remember sitting in her office and it's like, I don't know what to do next. I don't know where I should go, what jobs I should even apply for, because I never thought I was going to leave here. And she said to me, she said, Katie, I'd love it if you found a job where social media was all that you did, where social media was your main job, because what you've done for our social media here at the TV station is amazing. You've presented different ideas to me that we never even were thinking about. And I would just love to see you do that again, if that's your main job. And so I walked out of her office and I was like, you know what? Why not? Why not give it a shot? Let's see what happens. And one client turned into two and into three. And I've had my agency now for over 6 years. And I get to say I love what I do every day.
That's such a beautiful story and, probably so familiar to many of the women who are listening to this podcast and men. We have a diverse audience because lots of us, whether by choice or by force, have made the decision to not go back to corporate and use our skills and talents to start a business. So that was brave of you and wonderful of your boss to encourage you to do that at that time. And what was that journey like for you? Did you take one client with you and then grow from there? Was it always easy? Because here's what happens. I think through social media, women entrepreneurs are putting their best face forward and wanting it to be bright and shiny and look what I've done. And we don't always talk about the difficult aspects of growing a sustainable business and the nights maybe we woke up in a cold sweat. I know I was a single mom, and I had those moments of waking up at 3 a.m. in a sweat saying, what am I doing? What am I doing? I should just go back and get a job. So did you have moments like that too? Or
Yeah.
did you just skyrocket
Oh,
to
no.
success?
My goodness. No way. I wish I could say it was all sunshine and rainbows, but it wasn't, and it still isn't. And I think I don't want to say that's kind of like the rush of entrepreneurship, because it's not an exciting rush at all. It's not one that I look forward to experiencing. But absolutely, I never would have, I never would have ever thought I would be an entrepreneur. But now looking at the way that I work and just my personality type, the way that I go about things, I'm like, well, I was always meant to be an entrepreneur. But for those that are thinking like, oh, well, I want to start my own business, I actually told my former boss, the one that told me, hey, you should, just do social media. I've met up with her and I said, man, Jen, I have to tell you, she said, Katie, I just want to let you know, I'm so proud of you. I'm like, oh, thanks, Jen. I just have to tell you, I've never worked harder in my entire life than when I decided to start this business. And in her defense, she goes, well, that's not something I want to hear, because I'd like to know that you never worked harder than when you worked for me. I'm like, well, no, it's exactly what you said, Deb. I've started taking pictures every time I wake up at 3 a.m. Just on my phone to see, because you'll save in your memories. If you have an iPhone, it'll populate, and I'll be like, oh, look, back on, a year ago, in October or whatever, but anything. I was getting up at 3 a.m. then too. What was going on in my business? What was I working towards? Well, man, look at what I've been able to do since October, when I was waking up stressing over this thing. And it'll help me kind of recenter and look at how I've grown, because as entrepreneurs, we're always growing. We're always looking to be better people and trying to expand our knowledge base and be better business owners. And if you look at what you've come from the last time that you were going through those sleepless nights, you can say, well, hey, I've been here before and I overcame it.
And I think so many people underestimate what it takes. It's like this idea like, oh, I'm an executive coach. I'll just sell my services
Work
to a
from
company and
anywhere,
I'll
choose your own hours,
right, exactly. And so the promise of entrepreneurship is great, but the work is really serious. And I think when you're super motivated and you're committed to doing the work and you know that there's no turning back or you don't want to turn back. For me, it was being a single mom, having a 12-year-old son, not wanting to outsource parenthood anymore, newly divorced, wanted to be there for him as he went through that sticky stage of middle school and becoming a teenager and all of that rough stuff. So it was like I had this commitment to making it work. And waking up at 3 a.m. is a huge motivator to do whatever it takes to grow your business. So what were some of the challenges that you went through and how did you stick with it for the last 6 years? Because most people don't make it this far.
wow. Yeah. I think that for me, one of the biggest things of making it through the whole world of entrepreneurship was realizing that I just couldn't go back to corporate. And, I just joked that, oh, choose your own hours, work from anywhere. And we say that because it's really hard to not work when you have that flexibility. For me, I have an office space and it's outside of the house. The only reason I have that is because COVID forced my husband to take over our home office. And I do a lot of podcasting, I do a lot of speaking. I couldn't do that in the same room as him. So I had to get my own office. And when I did that, it allowed me to really accept like, this is a business. This is something I want to succeed at. I have bills to pay. I have people to pay. And I don't like when I come to my office here, this feels like home. This feels like this is where I come and can focus my energy and really focus on what I want to do and growing my business as opposed to just I'm at home where I was getting distracted and I was staying in this circle of like, okay, well, all the work is done. I'm going to go get some laundry done. I'm going to go do that. And I know it's different for everybody. I've Enneagram 7, ADHD. So, I mean, for me, I have to have as few distractions as possible. And for me, that was getting an office space. I know that as a business owner, for 6 years, as you said, like not very many people make it to this point, which I was like, wow, that's surprising to me because I feel like I've only gotten started. I feel like things are just getting started for me and my business. And I can't wait to see where they go because I feel like I've learned so much along the way that now I have the systems in place. Now I have the people in place. Now I have the process. I mean, everything's in place. So we are able to start focusing on growth. We're able to start focusing on getting even more clients in. I'm able to do more opportunities like this where I can come and have an awesome conversation with you about what it's really like to be an entrepreneur. And I'm not, like I said, I wake up at 3 a.m. and I'm like, well, now I've been up for an hour and a half when it's 4:30. And I'm like, I should have just gotten up and gotten the work done that I was thinking about. I've had the times where it's like, oh my gosh, how am I going to be able to pay my employees next month? I just lost, 2 clients. I wanted to bring in 2 new clients this week. Now I got to bring in 4. So I've had those moments of stress and anxiety. And I think it's encouraging to know that you're not alone in this journey. If you can find a business bestie, somebody that you can talk about with this. I love my husband so much. He is incredibly supportive, but he doesn't get it. He doesn't get a lot of this. He works in corporate. He doesn't understand the 3 a.m. wake up. He's like, well, why'd you wake up? What's going on? And I'm like, I just couldn't stop thinking about work I had to do. Why? Whereas if I say that I have a business bestie, Kendra, and she's like, well, let's talk about this. What are some things that we can put into place? And she's ready to start strategizing with me, start just being there to understand like, yeah, we all have these ebb and flows. So if you can find a business bestie, an accountability partner, I think it's
Or a coach.
or a coach, a mentor. I've had two amazing mentors from my corporate world and one as an entrepreneur. I think that coaches, Deb, I'm so glad you brought that up. I think coaches are essential for entrepreneurs. No matter where you are, there's always someone out there that knows more than you do or knows another way to do things. And if you think that you know it all, you're going to get left behind. But two, having that person that you can just say, look, I tried this new lead magnet. It is not working. Okay, well, let's think about things, so 100%.
Yeah, I made a list this morning about of how many coaches I've worked with over the last 10 years, and there were six. And a couple of them I worked with for 2 years in a row. So every year I've had a business coach, and I think it's so essential to keep on track, keep current with your strategies and your focus, which leads me to the next part of our conversation is keeping current. So Web3, we are always grappling with how did the algorithms change on the various social media platforms that we're using? And I've started thinking about how do you disrupt the narrative? How do you stop being derivative of what everyone else is doing in their marketing and start being disruptive either with your message, your content, or how you deliver? And I have a feeling Web3 is something that's going to be very disruptive to this market space. Tell us more about it.
Absolutely. Great pivot into that, Deb, by the way. That was awesome. And I think that, well, because I do social media and that is my day job. I educate entrepreneurs and their teams how to use social media effectively. And about, mid 2021 in July, I was like, why are all these people talking about crypto? Why do I keep seeing all these weird monkey avatars everywhere? This is funny money. It's not real money. And then Mark Zuckerberg, that little stinker, had to go and change the name of Facebook to Meta. And I was like, great, now I got to learn this whole Web3 nonsense. And that was my thoughts going into it. I didn't want to. I was like, this seems dumb. And how is this going to affect me in my life? Then I had my light bulb moment and I understood the power that Web3 and NFTs are going to give not just the big brands, but business owners, coaches, consultants, artists, personalities, public figures, bands, going back to MySpace, bands, all of these different ways of doing business and generating income can happen in Web3. And it allows you to form a community that we're not seeing anywhere else. So I want to just take a quick trip down memory lane into Facebook of 2009. And if you remember, when in 2009, if you had a Facebook page, we were posting to each other's walls. So, and this is actually one of the things I love about Facebook from back then, or from today, is that we get memories. So every now and then I'll get a memory from somebody saying like, hey, Katie, I'm in Denver this weekend visiting my parents. Want to know if you want to meet up for a coffee? And it was posted to my wall. I wasn't out there, throwing out a whole bunch of dancing videos and, live streaming. I wasn't doing any of that. I was checking in. I might update my status every now and then. Katie Brinkley is drinking coffee with friends. That was my post. That was my content I was creating. But you think about the way that you are opening up your phone, you're turning on Facebook now, you're logging into LinkedIn, and we're consuming. We're not out there forging relationships. We're not out there networking. We're not out there connecting. And that's what social media was originally. We were connecting and forging new relationships and building community with people around the world. And borders meant nothing. We could talk to anybody anywhere and forge a relationship with them. Now it's no different opening up Instagram than it is to turn on the TV. We're opening up our social media devices and we're consuming content. And that's where I think that NFTs and Web3, that is how I see it as different. We're able to forge a community of people around our business, our product, our service, of our biggest fans, people that believe in something like that you have to offer, whether it's a piece of art or whether you're a professional baseball player that's only in Division 2, triple double A baseball. You're able to form your own little fan base that's encouraging you and rooting you along to make it to the majors, and they've been there with you through that whole journey. It's a new way to forge a community from anywhere around the world, and I see it as an amazing opportunity for those who are willing to learn about it. I'm not saying to go ahead and put a second mortgage on your house and buy a whole bunch of crypto. Please, want to make sure that's clear. But I want you all to just take the time to learn about the opportunities that are happening and the different brands and businesses that are already starting to think about the space and what they're doing.
So let's start talking about how to learn about what other people are doing. Because, when I think of Web3, I think of Mark Zuckerberg with his, Oculus on, looking into a virtual reality space. Is that what Web3 is, or are we missing something if we think about it in that way?
Yeah, so that's kind of the metaverse, and that's Mark Zuckerberg's metaverse. There's a lot of metaverses out there. Him changing the Facebook corporate name to Meta does make it a little bit confusing because there are multiple metaverses out there. A lot of people I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Ready Player One, and it was popular just before the pandemic. But essentially, it was these people turning on their VR headsets and going and living these alternate reality lives in the metaverse where they could be anyone, be anything, and then they'd take off their Oculus or whatever it was in the movie, and they were just a regular person that maybe they did landscaping or something, something that was completely opposite of what they were presenting in the metaverse. And that is just one part of Web3, the metaverse is. And this is taking your avatar or across the hall from me here, there is an architect, and he has VR headsets. And when he's working on projects, everyone throws on their Oculus and they walk through this metaverse that he's created of how he's designed their building that he's designing for them. And it's this different reality. So it's one of those things where I definitely feel metaverse is just one part of it. Gucci, for example, this is one thing that I think is really smart on them. So Gucci bags, if you think about it, I can get a really expensive Gucci bag or purse, but you don't know if it's real or if I just got it off of Canal Street. So what they're implementing is a proof of purchase with their Gucci bags. It's an NFT. And with this proof of purchase, if anyone wants to then buy it, they'll see yep, this bag is connected to this NFT that lives on the blockchain. It makes perfect sense. This is a real bag. But one of the things that they're going to try to implement is as the metaverse becomes more common and more people are joining it, if I want to take this expensive Gucci bag that I bought in real life and I want to go walk around the metaverse and go see the Gwen Stefani show in the metaverse that she has and watch her live there, I can take my avatar with my Gucci bag NFT and I can dress a certain way, and it's all purchased through the metaverse. So it's all using social tokens and different tokenomics. So it's a lot to kind of be like, wait a second, this sounds like a movie. This doesn't seem real, but it's coming. And the guys in tech with all the money, this is what they're focusing on building and expanding their business towards, because it's an entirely different way. I mean, you think about this, if I can buy stuff here in the real world, and then I can also spend a whole lot of money on some shoes that only my avatar can wear in the metaverse, then I could sell it to me twice. I could buy a pair of Nike shoes twice if I wanted to.
So this is stirring up all sorts of creative juices inside of my head right now. And I'm thinking about coaches and consultants in particular, and virtual conferences, where you could gather people from all over the world in a room for an experience that's happening completely in the metaverse and not have hotel and food and beverage fees
Yes. Yes.
and all of that. So, I mean, how else do you see entrepreneurs, specifically service-based entrepreneurs like yourself or me,
Mhm.
coaches, consultants, agency owners, how do we leverage Web3 for our businesses and how do we engage clients in that? And how do we start educating people? And when's the right time? I have so many questions.
I know, so many questions, and that you're not alone. I mean, that's one of the things is it is the wild, wild west right now. And I want to just say this again, this is not financial advice, but I think that taking the time to just learn about the space right now it would behoove all of us just to learn about it. Maybe go ahead and buy your first NFT. And for those that are like, what, an NF what? So NFT stands for non-fungible token. That probably didn't make it any clearer. Fungible is like a $10 bill. Hey, Deb, you want some lunch? You forgot your wallet. Here's $10. Here's my $10 bill and I'm giving it to you. Go buy your lunch. Pay me back tomorrow. Tomorrow you come back. Here is $10, Katie. It's not the same $10. You gave the $10 to the cafeteria. That is a fungible token because it doesn't matter what $10 bill it is, it's still worth $10 regardless. Now, non-fungible means, hey, Deb, you're hosting that dinner party and I'm so lucky, but I own the Mona Lisa. You can go ahead and take my Mona Lisa and show it off, have it hanging up, in your living room, and then just give it back tomorrow after the dinner party is over. Well, after the dinner party, you say, here, Katie, here's a Monet. Well, it's also a very nice piece of art, but it's not the Mona Lisa. It's still fancy art, but it's not the same fancy art. That is non-fungible. And that is what I see a lot of business owners, coaches, consultants, artists, bands. That is where you can really forge your way in this space at this point in time. So, for example, again, if you wanted to launch a membership and have a whole bunch of people join your membership, to do so, they have to buy your Life After Corporate NFT. And this NFT is good for forever. Let's say they pay $1,000 for this NFT. They have lifetime access to the Life After Corporate membership, and they get podcast episodes, all these things. They get all the things. Well, after, let's say 2 years in there, I say, yeah, you know what, actually, this isn't the membership for me anymore. I've kind of grown. I'm ready to find a new one. Coaches, consultants, but people should be moving on after a certain amount of time. So after 2 years, I'm like, I paid $1,000 for this, but look at Deb's killing it now. She's got about 40,000 people in this membership, and she's closed the doors. I'm going to go ahead and sell my NFT on the secondary market. So there's a secondary market called OpenSea. It's kind of like the eBay for NFTs. And I decided to sell it. I'm just going to sell it for $5,000. So now I can sell that membership that somebody else might be like, I've been waiting on this waiting list forever to get into the membership. And she closed the doors. I'm going to buy into that membership now. $5,000. Here you go, Katie. Not only do I get that money, you as the creator get a percentage of it. So that's what's so exciting. So let's say I sell it for $5,000 and you have the creator fees of 7%, you get 7% of that sale. I see that this is really, I think, going to be implemented for events. I think it's going to, as soon as next year, that we'll see this in the event space. And I'm sorry, I get really excited when the NFT talk. But so for events, I have season tickets for the Colorado Avalanche. And they won the Stanley Cup in 2022. So I could, if I wasn't a super fan, I could have sold my Stanley Cup tickets for as much as $3,000 a ticket. That would have paid for over half of my season this year if I just won one game. I didn't pay $3,000 for those tickets. I only paid $200, but I could have made quite a killing on that. The Avalanche wouldn't have seen any of that money if they would have implemented their season tickets, which are digital anyways, if they would have implemented all their ticket sales as NFTs, they would have gotten a percentage, maybe it was 5% percentage of me selling that ticket on the secondary market.
This is so fascinating. So I'm wondering how it works in the event space. So you're so knowledgeable. You've been studying this for a while. Obviously, playing in the space a little bit, watching it evolve and change. So, how do you see the event space changing as a result of Web3 and NFTs?
That I think that example I just gave is going to be a huge one. There's also an event that I purchased. They sold a lifetime sale like ticket, so they only sold 100 of these tickets for the lifetime of this event, and it's a VIP ticket. I had to pay for it once, and I think I paid like $2,000 for it. The ticket every year is $800. So I was like, well, if I go 3 years, it pays for itself, you know. But now if I decide I don't want to go, or let's say I have a conflict, my daughter has a swim meet that I can't miss, I could go ahead and transfer it to you. And you're like, if I said, hey, Deb, do you want to go to the event this year? Here, I'll just transfer it to your wallet. Now you can go because I've already paid for that lifetime access. And then after the event's over, you can just transfer it back to me. So there's so many different ways of utilizing these tickets and making sure that the creator, they always kind of have their hand in it still. They're also, I mean, that thing with NFTs, it started for artists because if artists sell their paintings or sell their art, they sell it once. Now, I'm sure that there's, people that would, after they get famous and they sell more and more artwork and become more well-known, they'd just be like, man, that artwork that I sold for $100 when I first got starting out is being listed right now, for at Sotheby's or whatever for $100,000. And I don't get a single dime of that. Where now, if with NFTs, if they sell it again, and the business, the brand, the artist, whatever, continues to see more success and see their own stock rise, they're still getting a piece of the pie.
Right. So I want to split apart the NFT and Web3 discussion here because they can be combined, but they're mutually exclusive as well, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So you can sell NFTs for an in-person event that happens in the physical world. How does it intersect with Web3 and NFTs? Is it the same thing, using the ticket analogy that there's a virtual event that's happening and you buy the NFT for lifetime access to this particular event for as long as it's offered?
Yeah. So right now we're seeing a lot of, it's called utility. So AKA perks. There's a lot of terms in the NFT, in the Web3 space that I don't know why they call them the way that they are. Like roadmap, you'll see like, oh, the roadmap for this NFT project is this. It's just a business plan. So there's a lot of terminology, but a lot of the utility that we've been seeing in the NFT space, yes, you do get the Web3 perks, but most of the real benefits are in real life. So I'll go back to the example of the baseball player. He was, when I purchased his NFT, he was a AA baseball player in the Cardinals organization. Well, this year he was in AAA and he had a really good season. So he could be brought up to the majors next year. Part of the utility or the perks, in addition to being a part of his private community, you can talk to him and ask him things, whatever, in the virtual, like the online space. Part of his in real life utility is, hey, if you have a dog with the signature on it, they're called dogs, the little artists. If you have one with a signature on it, anytime I'm playing in your stadium, you can get a private stadium tour by me. Well, I mean, let's say I want to go to New York and get a private stadium tour from him when he's playing against the Yankees someday. That is a really cool utility. But when he created the project and started things, it was, going to Springfield, Ohio or something and seeing the stadium there. But that utility, that perk stays with him as he continues his career. So I know that that's kind of a different analogy on how the in real life perks or utility are being used, but it's the wild, wild west. There's really, the opportunities are endless. However you decide you want to give your members or your community, your buyers, the people that buy from you, the opportunity to invest in your project, the community that you want to form, you can do anything. You could say, hey, if being a part of this and owning this NFT, I'll send you a book every month and we're all going to read it together for part of our book club. And then we're going to go live on Zoom and discuss what some of our biggest takeaways were from this book. How are we going to implement it for our business? So, I mean, the opportunities are endless for how you want to bridge the gap right now. Web3 is a big, big world. There's the metaverse, there's the NFTs, there's DAOs, there's so much. And we are at a very exciting time where anything is possible. And it really is what you want to learn, how you want to take it. You can forge an entire industry if you have an idea right now.
Wow. And I imagine that your clients in your social media agency have a distinct advantage for having you on that forefront because they'll be early adopters or early experimenters with these new technologies and will be at the forefront of their categories. So bravo to you for really using technology and what's happening in Web3 and NFTs as a differentiator for your agency. So Katie, this has been so enlightening. Thank you so much. I've learned so much. I'm sure our listeners have learned so much as well. How do people stay in touch with you if they're interested in learning more about your agency? How do they get in touch?
Yeah. So if you want to connect with me, I'm on social media. Connect with me on LinkedIn at Katie Brinkley or on Instagram at I am Katie Brinkley. And this has been a great conversation, Deb. Thank you so much for having me. Like I said, I love talking about NFTs because it is such a great opportunity for people that are willing to just learn about it. Because as I said before, this technology, this way of thinking, this way of doing business, it is coming. And the more you can just learn about it and be willing to open up your mind to this way of doing business, you are going to be ahead of the game when this is commonplace and when this is something that everyone will be utilizing on a regular basis.
Yeah, I want to buy a token to your community or a utility or whatever it is. Katie, thank you so much. This was a very fun conversation. We'll post all your links below in the show notes. So if anyone wants to get in touch with Katie, I highly recommend that you follow her and follow what she's talking about, what she's doing. And we'll see you next time on Life After Corporate. Thanks so much, Katie.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening, my friend. If you enjoyed this show, please head over to iTunes and subscribe and leave us a review. And be sure to hop over to the Life After Corporate Facebook group and join other growing entrepreneurs to get weekly tips on how to create more money and meaning doing work you love.